George Orwell is arguably one of the most extensively read and cited authors in history, especially in the 20th century, referenced by nearly every modern ideology and political perspective. His thoughts resonate through history, with his commentary on language, technology, the manipulation of truth, and the dangers of totalitarianism remaining significant for people across the political spectrum, impacting both left and right, beyond any single ideology or movement. Born in 1903 in Bengal, India, which was then under British rule, Orwell was named Eric Arthur Blair at birth. He later adopted the pen name George Orwell to shield his family's reputation, as well as his own during his childhood, which was marked by atypical socioeconomic circumstances. His mother hailed from a wealthy background and exhibited the demeanor and tastes of someone affluent. Yet by the time Orwell was born, financial stability was lacking, with his father employed as a civil servant. Orwell would later describe his upbringing as lower upper middle class, a blend of financial struggle and social pretension. After returning from India to England with some assistance from family connections, he attended an English preparatory school. It was here that both his distinct personality and intelligence became evident, leading to a mixture of mockery from peers and scholarships to top institutions like Wellington and Eton. However, his experience in the academic setting was so unenjoyable that he chose not to pursue a university education. Instead, in 1922, he joined the British Imperial Service and became a colonial police officer stationed in Burma, a region of British India. This role also proved to be unsatisfying and at odds with his beliefs, leading to his resignation 5 years later. In the following years, Orwell took various low-wage jobs in Paris and London, including part-time work at a second-hand bookstore. During this period, he started to write and publish his own works, such as Burmese Days, A Clergyman's Daughter, and Keep the Aspidistra Flying. His unique background and experiences in Burma, France, and London nurtured his appreciation for what he called ordinary individuals, those with regular jobs, little focus on material wealth, minimal education, and no ambitions for fame, power, or greatness. Conversely, he developed a contempt for intellectuals. Ironically, Orwell would soon himself become one, establishing himself as a prominent intellectual of the 20th century. Orwell's emergence as a significant intellectual and literary figure can be largely credited to the transformative experiences he encountered during his trip to Spain in 1936. Initially, he traveled to Spain as a reporter to cover the Spanish Civil War, but he quickly decided to join the Republican forces as a volunteer to oppose the fascist adversaries. If you had inquired why I chose to become part of the militia, I would have said it was to combat fascism. And if you had asked what I was fighting for, my response would have been the essence of human decency. Later, Orwell reflected on his experiences during the conflict, mentioning that he was shot in the throat and came close to death due to a sniper's bullet. However, what impacted him even more was what he observed in the reporting and representation of the war. Years later, he stated, "In my early years, I recognized that no event is ever reported accurately by the press. But in Spain, for the first time, I saw news articles that had no connection to reality, not even the kind of distortion found in a typical lie. I witnessed major battles described where no fighting had occurred, and complete silence in places where many lives were lost. I observed soldiers who had exhibited bravery labeled as cowards and traitors, while those who had never been in combat were celebrated as heroes of fictitious victories. And I encountered newspapers in London propagate these falsehoods, while eager intellectuals constructed emotional narratives around events that never transpired. Indeed, I witnessed history crafted not based on actual events, but on what various factions believed should have occurred." Orwell's insights made him aware of the diminishing importance of objective truth. More and more, objective truth was being sidelined in favor of the beliefs and subjective truths of various ideologies and political groups. I am inclined to think that history, for the most part, is often inaccurate and prejudiced. However, what is particularly striking about our time is the forsaking of the concept that history could be accurately documented. Orwell asserted that the implications of this trend could pose a risk of descending into totalitarianism, a governmental system where individuals lack freedom and are instead subjected to the control of a central state authority when objective truth is no longer recognized. Truth then exists solely in the realm of human perception, making it easily reshaped and distorted. This danger, according to Orwell, is present regardless of any particular ideological or political stance, be it left or right. It fundamentally undermines the shared understanding of truth, which implies a commonality among all humans as a single species that totalitarianism seeks to erase. During the early to mid-20th century, these effects were unfolding, and totalitarianism was on the rise in Germany, Italy, Spain, the Soviet Union, and, as Orwell considered, in England and beyond. In light of this, Orwell was convinced that literature could serve as a means to warn against such developments. Peace, the agency that manipulates information and facts, is referred to as the Ministry of Truth. The mottos of Oceania state that war is peace, freedom is bondage, and ignorance is power. These beliefs lead individuals to practice what is called doublethink, where they hold their own views and interpretations of truth, while also accepting the party's assertions as reality, even when they conflict. Early in the story, Winston expresses his dissent by writing down with Big Brother in his diary. By the conclusion of the story, the narrator notes that 2 tears, smelling of gin, rolled down Winston's cheeks. Yet, everything was okay. All was well. The battle had ended. He had triumphed over himself. He adored Big Brother. Like Animal Farm, 1984 achieved quick success, which Orwell experienced during his lifetime before he succumbed to tuberculosis the following year in 1950. Ultimately, it is difficult to ascertain how jaded Orwell truly was, yet the pessimistic conclusions of his 2 iconic works could be seen not necessarily as a statement of complete despair, but as a cautionary tale about the potential despair that the future might hold, the future we are currently facing. Since Orwell's death, his writings have grown more popular and culturally significant. 1984 is likely among the most frequently read novels, especially within the dystopian speculative genre, remaining relevant even 75 years later, being included in many, if not most, English literature classes in high schools, as well as college curricula. Orwell is one of the few authors in history to have had a term derived from his work. The term Orwellian generally refers to situations that evoke Orwell's themes, where the rights and freedoms of citizens are compromised or endangered, often by a centralized political authority and ideology. However, it can be argued that Orwellian is not solely characterized by oppressive regimes, but also by the methods through which oppressive conditions are implemented. Specifically, it denotes the deliberate bending and manipulation of language and information to benefit a hidden agenda, much like Orwell's own writings. Nevertheless, this term is frequently misconstrued, misrepresented, or modified to support various causes that the user champions. Often, these are beliefs and ideologies that Orwell himself would probably have opposed. The term Orwellian has the potential to embody the manipulative qualities of its own namesake. It is crucial to recognize that while the party in Oceania from 1984 stemmed from socialist ideas, Orwell did not criticize socialism itself. His critiques were directed toward totalitarianism, irrespective of its origins or political alignment. In fact, he supported democratic socialism, advocating for a political system combined with a socially governed and decentralized economy. He expressed that every serious piece he wrote after 1936 was aimed either directly or indirectly against totalitarianism and in favor of the democratic socialism he understood. Additionally, Orwell opposed capitalism, believing it encourages suffering and leads to a concentration of power and wealth in the hands of a few. This certainly complicates the stance of those who invoke Orwell to promote capitalism and denounce socialism, particularly in a way that is ironically Orwellian. In the end, whether you share Orwell's views or appreciate his literary style, his impact is undeniable, as is the importance of examining the themes and concepts he addressed. His observations regarding the interplay between human psychology and politics, as well as how language shapes and governs the thoughts and beliefs of the public, are insights that remain relevant across all societies, whether in the past, present, or future. Only a truly exceptional writer could harness language to express such ideas and caution against the effects and sway of language. Moreover, his talent for making intricate and often uninteresting ideas accessible and engaging may have played a role in guiding societal changes toward, at the very least, a less oppressive future. In reality, we are consistently vulnerable to our own negative traits and lack of understanding when we are not vigilant. Tyranny is not merely a chapter in history, it is an aspect of human nature. Humanity perpetually teeters on the edge of descending into it, pursuing the allure of hope into bleak, dystopian realms. Orwell understood this notion that tyranny can emerge even in communities with good intentions, or in environments that seem prosperous and democratic. Perhaps in contrast to Orwell's perspective, our solitary hope stems from acknowledging that there is no definitive truth accessible to us, and that subjective truth may be the only reality we'll ever encounter. We must recognize this as a result of our inherent ignorance and limitations, along with our diverse viewpoints and conflicting beliefs. However, when we push this realization to its limits, we come to see that every person, every group, every organization, and every nation can be likened to fussy, fallible, and mistaken. There is no singular truth or ideology to adhere to or have faith in. By doing so, we might consume all the resources that fuel totalitarianism, and at the end, discover a collective understanding of simple kindness that Orwell championed, leading us to shared truths grounded in humility and compassion for our diverse and fluid human experiences across time and place, rather than seeking a definitive correctness or finality. Although undoubtedly, achieving this understanding is much easier said than done. Yet, as Orwell pointed out concerning the circumstances of 1984, the lesson derived from this frightening nightmare is straightforward. Don't allow it to occur. It relies on your actions. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.